Hi, this is History 101 and I am going to answer 4 questions regarding the 19th century context of the Philippines. Rizal's perception is unique in a sense that he was raised in an above average family. His mother taught him how to read, which leads to him growing up to be a bibliophile. He was also influenced by a number of individuals, namely Fyodor Jagor. Fyodor Jagor is a German scientist who traveled the Philippines in mid-19th century. In his book, Travels in the Philippines, which was published in 1873, he said that what was happening in the Philippines was very common. Jagor traveled throughout Asia and he compared other colonized country to Philippines. He has observed the defects of the Spanish colonization and he has predicted that Spain would lose Philippines soon. Government monopolies rigorously maintained, insolent disregard and neglect of half-caste and powerful Creoles. And the example of United States were the chief reason of the downfall of the American possession. The same causes threaten ruin to the Philippines, but of the monopolies, I have said enough. We can see why Rizal was influenced by Jagor. He has observed the gradual increase of Filipino consciousness. In this context, he was a product of his time. Another excerpt from his book reads, "The more foreign capital and foreign ideas and customs are introduced, increasing the prosperity, enlightening, and self-respect of the population, the more impatiently will the existing evil be endured." Having read Jagor's work, Rizal is now seeing what other Filipinos are not. Keep your eyes on the prize. Freedom. One must understand that in the early 19th century, the Philippines opened trade internationally, which is a domino effect for the collective heightened Filipino consciousness. Why? Because opening trade internationally means local landowners or business owners is now gaining wealth, which means they can send their children to school. School means education. Education means knowledge. Knowledge means empowerment, emboldenment, enlightenment. And that is exactly where Rizal is. Another context is originally Filipino referred to a pure-blood Spanish that was born in the Philippines. But gradually, local half started to call themselves Filipino. This is well illustrated in the movie Paano Kami Noon, Ay Ganito Kami Noon, Paano Kayo Ngayon. Calling yourself a Filipino back then is like saying we are the Aryan race to Hitler. There's a racial tone to it. And Padre Burgos actually called himself a Filipino. Speaking of the priests, Ibarra made a reference to them in Noli, chapter 8, which Ibarra referred to as the old wise man that opened his eyes and teach him how to think. And when they parted, the parting words of the old man was, "They come here seeking for gold. May you go to their country seeking a different kind of gold of our needs. But remember, all the glisters is not gold." And it just said here, he later died. But on the Guerrero translation, it was the old man died on the scaffold on that hill, which is obviously referring to the execution of Gomburza. In conclusion, the social structure per se is one of a major influencing factor in writing Noli Me Tangere. Question number 3. In the first few lines, Ibarra saw a diverse group of people: Chinese, Europeans, natives, which means business is flourishing. There are people coming and going there to conduct businesses. Rizal also described the streets as underdeveloped. There's a line there when he said, 2 days of rain and the unpaved street will turn into a marsh. There are even slippers stuck in the mud. 2 days of sunlight and it will turn into a dust, making everyone cough. Another thing that I could point out is they are accustomed to oppression and death. Rizal also mentioned that there are prisoners that was forced to work. Speaking of this, when Ibarra saw these prisoners working under the hot scorching sun, he remembered as a child that he saw one of these men dying, and his fellow prisoner picked him up like it was happening every day, like it is happening every day. Like he was saying, it's your turn to die now, maybe it's ours tomorrow. Like they have accepted their situation, that they have nothing they can do about it. And that's symbolism for the Philippines. We have accepted it for hundreds of years. That's it. And one more symbolism is we are chained. The prisoner is chained while working under the sun. There's a line here where he said, tied together two by two, burned by the sun, united by the heat and exhaustion, lashed and beaten with a rod by another prisoner who must have gotten consolation from his power to mistreat the others. What that means to me is it's a symbolism for Filipino. Filipino beating down Filipino. Over and over again. Obviously, yes, and in late 19th century is the turning point of our history. And I could say that the context of the 19th century is the vessel for the soul of Rizal's novels. The end. Peace, peace, peace.